Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Salvation Army. The USDA estimates that about 25 million US adults face food insecurity. Therefore, my speech's purpose is to persuade you all to volunteer for the Salvation Army. I have I have credibility as I have been associated with their efforts for over 2 years. I will start my speech by covering the needs that the Salvation Army addresses, then move on to the solutions to the needs, and then I will inform you of the consequences of volunteering and or failing to volunteer. The Salvation Army addresses several needs including food insecurity. The USDA, otherwise known as the United States Department of Agriculture, estimates that around 34 million people are food insecure, according to an article from Hungry in America from this year in 2022. There are very many. When you think about people not being secure with their food, it that's really a large number. For there to be over 34 million people that don't have food is very rough. There's people out there that go. There's that food banks and food shelters, and they really just help people and provide. And the Salvation Army really helps, and they give people these food packages. As you can see here, I printed out a picture. It contains things like cereal, peanut butter, canned goods, bread, things of that nature, so people could just have a nice meal and not have to worry about where the next meal is coming from and just get by for the day. About 9 million of those, about 9 million are children that are facing food insecurity, and this also comes from the USDA. There are a lot of kids that just go to school to get a free meal. I know in the school district that I came up in, we had a lot of people who came to school just to get a good meal, a good 2 meals a day, because they couldn't get it at home. Their parents weren't fortunate enough to give them that food, so that really came and brightened them up and helped them, and that played a big part in their life. The second thing that the Salvation Army really helps with is housing. The U.S. is facing a housing deficit of 3.8 million homes, and this number comes from the State of Nations Housing, another article from this year in 2022. 3.8 million 3.8 million homes like not being out there is really crazy. I don't really understand how there's 3.8 million homes not secured with families. So the Salvation Army really helps those people. They have things like, I have another picture here. They have things like these shelters with beds. Some families, they get apartments just depending on the family situation. But they have single people out there without homes. So they have shelters with beds everywhere and blankets and things like that they need. As estimated, 49% of Americans claim the lack of affordable housing was a significant problem in their communities, with 70% claiming that young people today experience more challenges purchasing a house than older generations experienced when they were younger. And this comes from a Scheffner article from this year. When it comes to young people looking for homes, this also is rough on young people, because a lot of young people, they don't have that financial security that the elderly have. They have retirement plans set up and things of that nature. So a lot of the elder people already have their living under control, but the youth that are, going to college and trying to get out of their parents' house, is really tough for them to find housing, because all the jobs are gone. It's really tough in this economy nowadays for them. So the Salvation Army really just steps in, and it helps them to, and it really just helps them to get their housing under control. They give them, a short-term fix so they can help themselves in the long run. A third thing that the Salvation Army really, really helps with is disaster relief. Disasters in the U.S. contributed to over $112.5 billion in damages, and this comes from an article from Disasters and Numbers from 2021. Disasters in the U.S. are very common. You have things such as hurricanes, tornadoes, all of that. So earthquakes on the West Coast, and 112 billion dollars is a lot of money. Even though to one home it might be $70,000 to $100,000, that's still a lot of money for a home that's probably not even making that much income a year. So for there to be $112 billion in damages, that's really a huge number. And I know from my own personal experience, I went through Hurricane Harvey in Houston, Texas, and that really hit a toll on the community. And I personally know a lot of people that lost their homes and lost a lot of their belongings, in the flood and all that. And I was fortunate enough to stay in my home, but I also know a bunch of people that wasn't able to do that. So the Salvation Army steps in and, they try to help where they can. They send people to they set up camps and shelters and things for people that lost their homes. So, and then they try to help raise money to get those people back on their feet. The number of deaths from disasters totaled to 688 in 2021, the highest in the past 10 years. And this comes from a Savage article from this year. And that's just another thing that that's part of it, Disasters, you really never want to see them, but they're coming. And as much as you try to prepare for them, there is a lot of things that it's hard to prepare for. And unfortunately, death is one of them. So that just takes a huge toll on everybody in it. The reasons why the Salvation Army tackles these problems are because if we are to address the existing poverty in America successfully, actions need to be undertaken to address food insecurity, housing problems, and disaster relief. Adequate housing and food security are critical for a country as they contribute towards a healthy economy and population. Additionally, good disaster preparedness ensures that individuals affected by these disasters can get back on their feet as quickly as possible and thus avoid the cycle of poverty. Therefore, adequate housing, food security, and good disaster preparedness are excellent weapons against poverty in the U.S., and they cannot be achieved without the help of volunteers such as yourselves. Those who are interested in volunteering should follow these steps. Search for volunteer positions on volunteermatch.com. Find your local office by keying in your zip code into the Salvation Army website. And lastly, visit your local office and inquire about a volunteer position. There are several consequences associated with volunteering or the lack of volunteering, including visualization. If people do not volunteer, then food insecurity, disaster preparedness problems, and housing problems will only get worse, which will result in higher poverty rates, unsanitary living conditions for the poor, economic decline for the nation, and health problems for the poor. However, if you do volunteer, and you would like to volunteer, you will be helping benefit the country in so many ways. You will be helping delete those shelters. You will be helping delete, very high homeless rates. You'll be helping decline that number by very much. So these are my closing remarks. Today I have educated you on the vital role played by the Salvation Army in America. In addition, I have addressed the consequences associated with not volunteering and the benefits of volunteering. Therefore, I sincerely hope you will volunteer for the Salvation Army and help us tackle these challenges. Do your part and contact us with the following contact information. Call 1-800-SAL-ARMY for more information. Thank you.